Welcome back to Matt's Reloading Bench. For this video in the 6.5 PRC series, I'm going to talk about fire forming brass and what my approach is to do it. Easy loads are just fine. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. Not only do I want to fire form this Lapua Brass, but I also want to break in the barrel of my rifle. I have a brand new Christensen Arms MPR chambered in 6.5 PRC. The rifle is set up the way that I want it, and it has been cleaned and it's ready for the range. The barrel on this rifle is hand lapped and is machined to a high quality. There may still be minor burrs inside the barrel from the machining process. When I break in my barrels, my goal is to have the barrel as clean as possible between each individual shot to avoid unwanted fouling and buildup of copper from the bullets. I don't want to use hot rounds for this process, and I don't want to waste the expensive bullets to do this either. My end goal is to develop loads using the Hornady 8 tips, but for this part of my project, I'll be using the Hornady 147 grain ELD match bullets. I am going to use the load data that is published for the overall cartridge length to save time. Once I'm to the point where I'm loading the A-tips, seating depth becomes an animal of its own, coupled with finding the best powder and powder charge. I will be doing all of that stuff in the future. Right now, it's about getting the barrel broken in and fire forming this brass. Why fire form brass? Well, when you fire a round, the brass expands to fill the chamber, and then the bullet will travel down the barrel. When you have once fired brass, if you reload, you want to do it in a fashion where you keep your brass as close to the chamber dimensions of that particular rifle that you will be firing it in. In return, when a shot is fired, less energy is used to expand the brass to fill the chamber, and more is used to push the bullet down the barrel. This aids with more consistency beginning in the chamber, which results in more consistency with how the projectile travels out of the muzzle and downrange. So let's get started with the initial loads. I am using Vitavori 24N41 powder. After doing some research and finding relative load data on the Vitavori website, I've decided that I will use 52.0 grains of powder. This is at the low end of the charge chart, and that is what I want. No need to load close to the red line. I see no need in wasting these precious materials. For bullet seating, I'm going to seat until the cartridge overall length is 2.95 inches from the base of the cartridge to the tip of the bullet. For primers, I'm going to be using CCI 250 Magnum Large Rifle. The first step in making up these loads for fire forming the brass is priming. So I'm going to be using the CCI 250 Magnum Large Rifle primers. I'm using these primers because, number one, it's the only primer that I have available, and number two, pretty much every load shows that you should be using a Magnum primer for loading these cartridges. So to do so, I'm going to be using my RCBS Universal Priming Tool. You just put the piece of brass into the spring-loaded jaws. It holds it in place. You just squeeze the handle in. You can feel when the primer is bottomed out, and then you stop. You want to make sure that you're using the same amount of pressure and the same relative stop point on every primer when you're seating it. That way, you keep consistent from one shot to the next in regards to making sure that your primers are seated all the way. And you also need to be careful not to try and force the primer deeper than when it's bottomed out, because then you will start to deform the primers. So I will go ahead and load up the rest of this brass, and then we'll start working on powder charges. I've got all the brass primed and set up in my loading blocks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my powder and pour it into the hopper for my Frankfurt Arsenal IntelliDropper. Before I start using my IntelliDropper, I like to let it sit for a good 15 minutes before I start using it. That way it gives the scale time to stabilize. Um, Anytime that I move this from one place to another or pick it up off of the table, I will always do that. With the Frankfurt Arsenal IntelliDropper, after I let it sit for 15 minutes, I will calibrate the scale, which I've already done, and then I will calibrate the powder. So it'll go through a sequence of different turning speeds, and it will figure out how the powder runs through the machine so that it can quicker dispense the powder more accurately when you are putting in a specific uh, weight of powder that you want it to dispense. All right, so it is calibrated for this powder. I will empty out the tray and I will enter in 52 grains, and then we will dispense the powder into all 100 pieces of brass. Then we'll set up for bullet seating. I've got my seating die in the press, and now all I need to do is get the seating depth set. So we will take a cartridge, grab a bullet, and let's see what we got. I've got 3.085 and we want 2.95. Three 3.042. Three point zero. 3.953, and this should be it. .95 on the dot. So with that set, I will go ahead and run through all of these, and once I have all the bullets seated, the next step is going to the range and fire forming this brass. I've got all 100 rounds loaded. ready to be fire formed. So now all I gotta do is wait until I can get to the range, and I will shoot all of them. And in the process of doing that, I'll be breaking in the barrel of my new rifle. Thanks again for watching, and please hit the subscribe button if you like my video. And don't forget to hit the notification button so that you know when I post my next one. Until next time, shoot straight and be safe.